Up for sale is this 39-foot fiberglass Choy Lee boat from the 70s. It's an offshore design, which means it's got twin cockpits. The boat's name is Whale Song. She's currently lying in Cairns at the Cairns Cruising Yacht Squadron on the dock, obviously. She's quite interesting design. She's got an aft cockpit and a centre cockpit. And the aft cockpit's the helm and the centre cockpit's sort of lounging and where all the sheets go. She's flush deck, so the internal volume is just absolutely huge. From the stern all the way up to the bow, you can stand up. And the internal space, you wait till you see it, it's just unbelievable. So we've had it for about 9 months. Before this, we sailed up on a smaller boat from Adelaide up to Cairns, where we bought Whale Song. And we bought Whale Song largely because our daughter was getting older and we needed more space for her. So we bought this one with some initial problems with it. It had a seized transmission, had some problems with the anchor winch and things like that, and we sort of set about fixing a lot of those things, and there's still some things to be done, but essentially she's I'd still sort of say she's a semi-project boat, but you'll see a lot of the stuff that has been done, especially internally, is pretty spectacular. And she's I've been cruising for 10-11 years, and I really think this is a boat that's going to suit someone great. We're only selling because we're in Cairns now, and because of COVID we haven't been able to get back to family, and our daughter's got to go to school next year, so we're going to go down to Sydney by land rather than spend the extra 6 months we were going to spend fixing her up and doing the final things that we need to do. So I'll take you through. This will be like an extensive walkthrough so that it answers all the questions people might have. Just makes it easier when it comes to people inquiring further about the details. All right, where to begin? All right, let's begin at the bow. I'll come up on deck. So yeah, the deck space, because it's a flush deck, is just unbelievable. It's just so wide. It is curved, and people find that odd initially, that it's got this sort of curve here, and then it flattens out more as you get to the bow. When we got it, this windlass base was all rotted out, and the windlass really just wasn't sitting where it was supposed to at all and wasn't functional. So we completely refurbished the windlass, including putting that new base on. I'll show you later underneath as well, where we fixed all where the motor is, and it works really beautifully now. We also bought a Saka XL 30 kilo, which is just the best of the best, and it's only been used a couple times, but it really is the best, in my opinion, the best anchor on the market. Here's just looking aft. That sort of odd, sorry, they're water blasting next door, so it's a little noisy. That frame is just because we normally have a shade cloth because it's Cairns and it's bloody hot all the time, but I've taken the shade cloth off for the video. So this sort of black is just ropes that I've done with irrigation hose over it just to stop the chafing. You'll see on the right side I've redone all the edging in white. When we got the boat it was all this blue, so I haven't done the other side yet, but I just thought the white looked nicer, so it's one of those jobs I'm sort of part way through. It's got these monstrous Dorado boxes which provide lots of air going in, and they also look amazing. This is the Marsh, she's double spreader sloop rig. Yeah, the rigging, I have no idea when it was last done. You know, it's probably something to look at. The boom, for some reason the mast paint is fine, but then the boom is in need of repainting, and there's no mainsail. So when we got the boat, it had shagged out, completely sagged out genoa and mainsail, and the mainsail wasn't the right one for the boat either. So we've, since then we found a genoa that was the right size, a used one, but a really nice quality one, and it's huge. It comes back, it's probably 130%, sort of comes back sort of round here. Beautiful big genoa. These winches all work, the halyards, they're these old wire ones, but they work kind of nice. You wind them up and then you lock it as you go. We did find one problem with one of the chain plates after we bought it, which is this one. I'll show you the chain plate that I have. So I took it off and I've remade a new one out of 10mm stainless to replicate the old one, and we're just installing that now. It just had cracks in it and we were just concerned about it, so we took it off. And we did have a reasonable look at the rest of them, but not a really good look, but we feel most of them are pretty good. This is a monitor wind vane. I was going to put this on because the rest of the time we sailed up from Adelaide we always used the wind vane, so I was going to try and fit it to this boat. This probably won't come with the sail of the boat, but yeah, I've got it there for now. I'll probably sell that separately. 2 kayaks on the back. We replaced all the solar, so they're 2 390 watt Q-cell panels, so they're just the best of the best. One by itself would basically be overkill for the boat, but there was space for 2, and we figure it means that even when it's like rainy during wet season and cloudy, we still get enough to run all the basic stuff like fridges and whatever. But these really are the best panels out on the market. We often see we've got a 30 amp regulator and it often caps that one out or gets up near sort of 27 amps. Alright, this is the center cockpit, which is just like the heart of the outside area. It's really big, it's really wide. There's an option here up in Cairns to put the air conditioner there through that hatch, as there are two openings to the boat, 2 companion ways. I'll show you quickly outside here. So this is the helm here. It's one of these old reverse helms, which is actually really cool. It feels really good here with the chart plotter and everything and the wheel like this. It's like a nice sitting area. The previous owner did an amazing job rebuilding all this. So this is all the internal work which is done in this hardwood. This is a sprocket for autopilot, which apparently is working, and it got serviced, and there's all sorts of spares and chains and things that go to attach that. But it's, you know, it's a really nice system going to the aft hung rudder. This gear here is, you know, top of the line. This low ramp, I don't know what these are worth, but it's, you know, something like $3,000. Works beautifully. It's connected to the depth sounder, and this is the autopilot function. Engine controls over there with the throttles here. Just our air conditioner I put out of the way, and the gas bottle. Just show you quickly these winches. These are beautiful, all in stainless, and they work great. Same as on the other side. Not sure what size they are, but they're big. They're probably, oh there you go, 28 plus. This one for the mainsail is C's, so that would need some work, but I guess the alternative is just to block and tackle up to here. The one on the other side works great as well. It's just a bit more view of that center cockpit. Alright, I'll take you down aft first, into the master cabin. Alright, try and give you a real sense of the space, because this boat is just ginormous. It's absolutely its best qualities. It's definitely as a liverboard. It's just beautiful. So, got a helm station here, and then a double berth. This is the double berth space. Every room and berth has one of these Sirocco fans. These beautiful big porthole hatches, rectangular. The previous owner did a beautiful job in here. He's redone all this ceiling work, all the timber trim, all the way around the boat. Here it's got this nice carpet on it leading into the timber, flat screen TV. This is a remote for the autopilot, which I always assumed you could decide to run that to the center cockpit if you wanted to, so you could steer while you tack and things from there. Over this side we've got the nav table. There's a whole bunch of documentation in there to do with the boat over the years. that it's been around, including old surveys and old picture albums. This is a quite modern VHF that's got AIS as part of it. Back here it's probably hard to see, but this is where all the cabling is for the steering, and it's also got the box in there for the autopilot, the electric autopilot system. Storage everywhere. There's storage under that. There's drawers in here. There's more drawers in here. There's cabinetry under the bed. It's got these beautiful just little cabinets and knickknacks. This is the MPPT smart controller we put in. It's just the best of the best, the 30 amp one that connects to Bluetooth. You see we're just on float all the time from basically 8 AM. This is the old panel, is old. I was definitely going to work to replace this. Everything sort of works. We haven't had any major issues with the electrics, but you know, it's very old and needs some work. I'd sort of rewired quite a few boats and I was going to do it all properly, but that'll have to be for the next owner now. I think that's everything for here. Back of the engine controls. It's just, you just see it's beautifully done, all the lights, all the timber work. The previous owner, Ralph, just did a really nice job on the internals. Alright, here you have a sea berth off to this side. Apparently this used to be 2 berths stacked on top of each other, and now it's just one really nice one, and we often have guests there. It's even got its own little TV, its own light and its own fan. I'll try and give you some perspective on it. So where I'm standing now in the cabin is headroom. Through here it's a little dock. So I'd say this is probably, maybe it's 1.6 meter height here. I'm 1.86. I think this is about 1.6 meters. So you sort of duck, it's not like a big squat. It's just sort of like a duck your head down. All right, cupboards. And most people would think the engine's in here because this is under the center cockpit, but it's actually a large hot water cylinder. I'm not sure how big it is, but it's probably 40 litres. And we haven't used it for showers, but the previous owner would shower, you know, multiple times a day, running it off the engine or the genset. Alright, I'll show you there soon, but next I'll show you what's currently my daughter's room. So this is a whole separate room which is opposite this sea berth, which is a double bunk. You know, really nice big private space. It's got its own fan in it as well. The diesel tanks are located under here in, I've been told that it's actually stainless with glass over the top of it, but when you look at it, it just seems like they're glass tanks with an inspection port in one of the 2 tanks. With a total of, I think it's 120 or something like that. I think they're 60 each. More cupboards, you know, really big cupboard space. More cupboards down there. Bookshelf we put in for Lou, who's our daughter. More space in here. Its own door. It's just beautiful, beautiful space. Underneath these floorboards is access to the prop shaft and the gearbox, which I know intimately because I had to fix the transmission when I first got the boat. So I spent many an hour hunched over there. And this is the hot water cylinder in there. Alright, now to the heart of the boat. Let's start by moving this. Alright, it's hard to, it'd be good if someone was in here just to give perspective on how big this is, because it is just ginormous in here. This beautiful big circular table where you can flip down either side, and the whole table will drop down into a big bed, and there's cushions for that, so this just becomes a big 70s sort of couch bed. It's really cool. Over the starboard we've got the galley, and once again the previous owner just did beautifully with this. Above it he's done this section in stainless, separate from this white lining. sink, bench top, oven on gimbals, stove and oven on gimbals. It's got gas detector and gas on off switch here. And then this comes up. And you've got the stove under there. It's just really excellent setup. The previous owner had a microwave there. Yeah, beautiful, and just all these lights and everything in here is just lovely. The fridge, that's the depth of the fridge. So it's 2 layers, and we've never even come close to using the second layer. How can I give you some perspective? It's big. This is half of it, and then it's got a shelf down there. You can take the shelf out, and there's more space underneath there. It's freezing up a little bit at the moment because we haven't turned it off in a while, but it's just worked flawlessly the whole time. The owner before us lived aboard full time, so he really put in all the creature comforts and kept those things going really well. I love this sort of curved ceiling, which takes that shape of the deck, and once again it's just sort of very nice work done on these sort of on the linings and all the fixtures. Alright, so we'll stop there and then we'll go around here. So just for some perspective, that's where we've come from. This is the center cockpit, this is the center cockpit, and this is the head. Really nice. This probably not something you think about when you're buying a boat necessarily, but this toilet's just excellent. It's like a really big bowl and it just has no problems. It's just, I don't know, it's really good. I've got lots of different heads and that one's great. It's just got cool stuff, like there's a little box here that you can take out for your laundry. Got more cabinetry stuff in here. This nice sink. It did used to have, for a shower, it was like one of those coiled lines that you can hang up here, but it stopped working, so we replaced it with this, with the idea that we'd just run a second line, a second hose off for the shower and just have it permanently up there. Oh, we bought this just because we think it's pretty. And we replaced the water pump recently with a really high flow, blah blah blah. If anything, it could use the flow reduced, but seems we're on the dock at the moment, it doesn't super matter. Yeah, all staff cabinetry under there, that's where the water pump is. So here, the engine is under here, which is where you step down. Now it's a Perkins 60 horsepower. So it does work and it runs fine. The old owner redid all the engine mounts and had the engine aligned. We've done the transmission, we changed the timing belt, we changed a number of the hoses, we changed all the hydraulic hoses for the oil cooling for the transmission, and she runs kind of okay. We think what's happening is that the cylinders have been glazed because it hasn't been run heavily for years and years, so we found that once we used it for a while, it sort of performed better, like it stopped blowing a bit of white smoke. But in terms of vibrations and things, there's almost nothing. So we had planned, like within the next couple of months, to have this rebuilt. And we got quotes for it from, I think it's called All Diesel or something in Brisbane. A friend of ours used their service. And they quoted for this $4,200 for a complete rebuild. So that's where they redo all the gaskets, they rebore the cylinders, new cylinder heads, all new hoses, everything. You just end up with a brand new engine. There's also Sim Trans here in Cairns that would be able to do it for a similar price. It's got this ultrasonic anti-fouling sonar system, which we've actually had off for a while, just since we redid the batteries on the boat. But it does make a huge difference in terms of proper growth going on the boat. So basically there's a sonar at the front and the back of the boat, and it's like a low wattage signal that gets sent from the front to the back and reduces the amount of anti-foul. This is 3-month-old PowerTech pure sine wave inverter, 1500 watt. Why 1500 watt? Well, because my partner likes smoothies. So she's got a smoothie blender which is about as big as the Anchor Windlass, so she can have yummy berry smoothies every day. And the other thing we've got that we've just unplugged currently is that when we're on the dock, we plug in this 15 amp Victron battery charger. just because, I mean, we were doing fine with the solar, but we just like the idea that they're always topped up. We're not damaging the batteries at all during the time that we're just hanging about using the boat like a house. Beautiful hatch up here, goes out onto the foredeck. Nice slow movements. That's the mast, obviously, so that's keel stepped. Now, we bought new batteries, so we got 4 times 120 amp hour batteries, and we put them back in where the previous batteries went. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's what, 480. Or was it, they 130? I don't know, I feel like it was 520 all up. So my plan with these, this section actually can sometimes get a bit of water in it, and I think what's happening is it's water that's coming through the mast. So I want to relocate these, and actually I'd almost be tempted to relocate to where the hot water cylinder is, because it's midship, it's low. You know, if you could fit them in there would be ideal. The other space would be under here. You'd have to cut out a bigger, it does have an inspection thing here. You'd have to cut out something bigger and like probably glass a nice shelf in, but I kind of think there would be a perfect spot. It is all separate, like the bilge from the engine back is separate from this bilge, which is a little mini bilge here, but I still would prefer not to have the batteries right down that low. So anyway, all this space is great. These tables on this drop-in system drops down into this huge bed. I actually really like it as the bed. And then you'd have to think that's the end of the boat for a 39-foot boat, but no. Now, forgive me, yes, it's a workshop, don't judge me, but here we go. All right, workshop. Now, this actually was a double berth, 2 single berths. And, you know, as I was doing up the boat, I decided to use it and organize it and keep it beautiful as my tool shed. And then that whole idea went out the window when I stopped putting things back where they belong. Anyway, I'll show you a few things in here. It's huge. It's got these rungs that go up here, out this hatch, with my assumption being that this would have once made a really good sail bag room when sails were hang-on. I'll just show you quickly the extent of some of the work I did with the anchor winch. So this whole bit was completely rotten out. The winch had rust on and stuff like that, so I've serviced things like this many times. So the whole thing was taken apart, wire brushed, all the actual motor itself was serviced internally, and then I had to get a new spacer because that aluminium spacer had corroded, and the white you see is just anti-corrosion material because it's steel and then aluminium, so it's just caked on there with a bit of hard plastic just acting as a spacer and a bracket. But it works really well now. It needs a few extra things. At the moment it's only got a down function, so it needs a solenoid, which is a reversing solenoid, and they're about $100. And I found the 100 amp circuit breaker I got for it isn't big enough, probably because I've got that ginormous beautiful anchor on the front. But the chain's great. It's about 30 or 40 meters of galv 10 mil, but it's basically in brand new condition. Which is just a huge plus. So yeah, it's a huge space in here, and you know, as we've got to go, I know a lot of this looks like junk, but there's actually a huge amount of spare parts and bilge pumps and old regulators and tools and, you know, nuts and bolts and stainless stuff and old pumps and grinders and, you know, old things that still work like battery chargers and light fittings and gaskets and flares and, you know, all sort of rust proof and cleaning stuff. So for anyone that's into all that stuff, it'll be a dream come true. And no, I'm not being sarcastic, there's a lot of good stuff in there. I know it looks messy. All right, let's go for, so I think the layout's pretty clear now. I know it's a long video, but it just saves people calling up with a million questions about a million things. So this is just beautiful. It's funny, it's kind of like my old boat didn't have as deep steps down, but for some reason this one just works really well. Like my daughter goes up and down here all the time. I don't know, it's just the angle of it, the width of the steps just sort of feels fine. And a nice hatch, all works really well. Got jerry cans under there. Alright, so what's left is just a once over. Him and her kayaks. I guess I'll go down and give you an outside view. Oh, I didn't show you the chain plate, but I'm just about to bolt that back in. It's just basically identical to these out of 10mm. It's all drilled and rounded. And it's just the one for the lower shroud there. I was just worried about it, and because I saw with my daughter and that, I just wanted to make sure it's good. So it would be worth, you know, having a look at the others, but I did have a quick look and I was happy with what I saw. Those oars won't be coming with it. They're for another project. The 15 horsepower Johnson is just fixing the water inlet rubber hosing. So I've got the foot off it at the moment, but that will probably come with it with a nice big tinny. I don't know, it's a 14-foot tinny or something. Unusual design with that cutout, and at first it looks funny, but after a while it gives the boat real character. Yeah, so there she is. So she was taken out of the water, it's probably been 2 years or a bit more since she was, but when she was last taken out by the previous owner, they sandblasted back to bare hull and fixed any bits of osmosis, and then, like, you know, started from scratch, building up with primer and anti-foul. And I get a diver to go down there every now and then, and he reckons it's pretty good, probably because of that sonar system. The aft hung rudder is unusual. Some of the steel which sort of connects it to the internal wires looks to me like it'd be worth taking off and just getting it remade in stainless, but not a big deal. Solar panels on the top. So yeah, it's got Genoa. It doesn't have a mainsail or a mainsail bag, anything. There's a whole bunch of other bags with old sails, like there's like a storm sail on its own stay, and there's a fixture sort of midway up that must be what that was run off, and there's a couple of spinnakers. The Genoa is really good. Well, it's reasonable. I'd say it's like maybe 6.5 or 7 out of 10. That's all good. So yeah, so I guess I won't say price or anything because we're sort of still working that out, but we're at the Cairns Cruising Yacht Squadron. We'll be selling it quick, but we really, in saying that, we're not just going to give it away. I mean, there's a lot of really cool stuff. I didn't show you the generator too. Sitting up behind that hatch is I think it's a 4 kilowatt Yamaha. It just works beautifully, purrs away. It's really, really quiet. It's enough to run the air conditioner and all the fridge and all the boat by itself. Yeah, so it's got lots of good little extras, and I guess that'll do for now. So you can contact us if you want to look. Like I said, we do want to sell it quick, but at the same time, like, really, please do not come with just silly offers, because we know that she's a good boat, and we're just not going to give her away for like a huge reduction in what we're asking. We're pretty experienced with boats, and we just want to sell her for what she's worth. And it wouldn't hurt to have someone take her on that knows what they're doing and intends to do the right thing with her to bring her into proper cruising condition, to be a proper world cruiser again. Alright, that's all folks. That's Whale Song 39-foot Choy Lee.